So we are entering into a very, very important verse. For the last almost 3 weeks, I have been trying to make you understand. I've been trying my best to make you understand the journey and especially understand the next verse. Once we understand the next verse, almost the journey is very close to us, reachable. But if we have not been preparing ourselves with the past almost 20 sessions on Saturdays, then it becomes a big challenge. Then obviously the mind rejects. What the mind rejects? Mind rejects that I am the real self, I am the consciousness. Second thing, I should bring it. Second thing is, first thing, definitely, you are not repeating, you have not repeated the past 20 lessons and you have not understood it, you have not applied it, it will not work. That is why I have been saying that listening and learning from a teacher is the preparation, and repeat listening and applying the same in your daily life is the way. It's a very important verse and I'm just postponing it, so every session I explain it in a different way. So I will take up the one part of the next verse today, and I need your attention on that. Second thing, the knowledge as we understood, it is the cause and effect relationship. So once we understand from the effect, we go to the root cause. The real self is here and now. And the fact of the matter is that when we say real self, it is the discovery of what is already within us. In science, if you say in material science or in normal activity, I want to grab a cup of tea, I have to cover a time and distance, which is outside me. But the real self is within me when it is here and now. It is here and now. We have been talking about ignorance, and ignorance has two aspects, the veiling power and projection. Third point I must raise before I talk about, I go into that verse. What is the third point before I go into the verse? That this journey is all about removing the ignorance, which can be removed here and now by understanding, and once it is understood, it has to be applied in life here and now. So let us see. Take example. For example, so I just take one example and then I come to the main thing to explain you what is the hiding, the veiling power, and what is the projection power. Are you ready? I won't say, are you excited? So no. one example first. I am with David and Jerry. I ask Jerry, where is David? And David is standing before me. I don't know David. Jerry, David is standing before me. Jerry asks me, do you know David? And I say, I don't know David, but David is standing before me. What is this? This is a veiling power. Now come back directly. If I ask you, do you know real self? No, I don't know real self. You have already created, you have hidden the real self. It demands a real awareness and attention. We normally say, oh, live in mindfulness. It doesn't work that way. Now come back. When I say, do you know real self? And you say no. Who says no? It is the real self which is saying that I don't know real self. Are you getting it? This guy is extraordinary. When I read it first and I said this, he doesn't talk about any emotions and any cult and dogma and religious and belief. Again, I'm repeating. Do you know real self? An enlightened guy asked the ignorant guy, do you know the real self? No, I don't know it. So now from where he says, I don't know it, he is conscious. He is conscious means it is consciousness. And that consciousness is the real self. So it is moving through the mind, and mind says, I don't know the real self. So you have already created veiling power. Second part, I'm talking of the projection. So do you know yourself? No, I don't know. But at the same time, I know something about me. What I know about something about me, that I am the body and mind, and it is a projection power. And I fall into the trap of ignorance, and that is how I continue my life. Are you getting it? Say yes, even if you do not understand. You have to. That is why I've been saying it. You have to listen to it again and again. He doesn't complete his journey. It is perhaps, I'm covering only the 6th chapter. This master has 15 chapters. Every verse is so important. Just say clearly. You are standing before your house. Do you know your house? No, I don't know it. And you got some clue. What is got clue? My house number, I have a clue 7304. Oh, yes, it is my house. Finished. All your anxiety is done. So those clues are these pointers. These clues are what we have done in the last 20 sessions from this chapter. You miss one, you miss everything. That is why in the last session I talked about what I talked about now. Link it. We should rub sanitizer. We used to rub sanitizer before touching anything and after touching anything during the COVID. So it is the listening and learning shines your mind in discernment and dispassion. It doesn't allow the mind to fall into unconsciousness. You're not distracted. You live into that extraordinary awareness and you say, oh, wow, you are right. You are right. And if you don't use the discernment in this fashion, and these two metaphors which helps you to understand what is consciousness and what is reflected consciousness, then we cannot reach there. You keep on doing the practice. Saturday's session, I know that I'm opposing the two different streams. On Mondays and Thursdays, I say you have to do the practice. So that approach is different. And here, we simply need to understand it. Pay attention, let me say. Simple example, I'm standing in front of the Stephen. I'm talking to Stephen, but I don't know him. Someone asked me, do you know Stephen? I don't know. Do you see? I don't know. So now go a little deeper. Who says I don't know? It is the reflected consciousness. What is that reflected consciousness? It is known as the mind and the ego. That mind and the ego should know anything with the name and the form. With the name and the form. No, he is Stephen. My ignorance is gone. But here is the issue of the real self without the name and the form. And it is already there. If I speak, I know, or I say, I don't know. In both the cases, it is the consciousness which says, I know, I do not know. Without the presence of that consciousness, which is reflected into the mind, can I say I do not exist? Let me say, I do not exist. And your mind says, are you crazy? Who says that you do not exist? You said something. It proves your existence. Now compare the statement. Do you know real self? No, I don't know real self. Are you making a joke? You are already a real self. No worries if you do not understand, because he is making another 50 verses to make you understand this is what. So what exactly, that is why now in expression, that expression comes to the mind in the form of a communication language, the thought and the words. So this master helps us to examine each and every word that we speak in order to know the real self. He says, no, now it is the time. How the mind hides that real self. So he says, pay attention to the expression. Right. Do you know, Stephen? No, I don't know. It is an expression in a language. It has already hiding the Stephen who is standing before me. I'm talking to him. I'm communicating to him. Unless someone says, no, you are talking to Stephen. Oh, okay. What I need to do, I need not to do anything. That is the power of this knowledge. So that is why the master says, from the ignorance we have reached to there are two factors. One factor is the hiding, concealing factor. So concealing factor comes due to ignorance, and then projection also comes due to the ignorance. We say ignorance has two powers, power of hiding power of concealing, and the power of projection. Power of projection. When asked by a wise person, here, now the master, I'm going to the verse. So the master is saying that when asked by an awakened person about the self, the ignorant person says he does not know or experience the real self. What it means? I'm going slowly. The ignorant person denies the existence of the self even though he is the real self. That is, it is the height of reasoning. You will forget the science. Science says, no, you have to reason out. It's 100% reasoning, but here it is 200% reasoning. We are not talking of just giving belief in the spirit and the soul. We say here and now. Again, I'm repeating. I'm repeating for the sake of that, so that it goes and assimilated. The ignorant person denies the existence of the real self, even though he is the real self. That is how I explained you just now by an example. My mind is overpowered. My mind is exposed to the external world. I want to know the real self as a name in the form. It is not possible. Withdrawal inside. That withdrawal inside is the purity of the mind. How can you say that I know or I do not know only if I am consciousness? It is the mind that says I am conscious of you or a car or anything. Still I ignore. So when I ignore means ignorance. I deny I do not know the real self. What is this? This is the first power of ignorance. It is here and now. I am speaking, it is here and now. This is the wailing power. So what I need to do, I have to sit down on a lazy chair and ask the same question to your mind. Do I know myself? And I have to scan each and every word. Who is scanning the word? That is me. That is the pure consciousness. Before the mind enters into a projection power of the projection, and I forget. And that is why I said, can I deny that I am non-existence? No, I cannot deny. Even if I say by language that I do not exist, I still exist. My existence says that I do not exist. Mouse does not say, even mouse says I exist or I do not exist. Doesn't make any sense. It is unconscious. So that is why the master says, now he's just, step by step, I'm opening up that each line of the verse. So then what happens? Do I know my real self? No, I don't know. So that real self is not experienced by an ignorant person. He is living in ignorance due to the veiling power. We see you all are real self, but you don't see that you are the real self. You don't know how much stress I have, You're gone. Projection. You don't know how much difficulties I have. Doctor has diagnosed me a split personality. We already have a split personality. It's a very serious topic. Every verse is so interesting and so serious. Despite experiencing the self, through all my experiences, the ignorant person says he does not know the real self. So the master, I can cite many examples. Do you see the sun? I don't see the sun. It is clouded by the dark clouds. In whose presence you see the sun is clouded? It is the presence of the sun. Are you getting it? Do you see the sun? No, I don't see the sun. Okay, hold on. Why you don't see the sun? Because there are clouds. So in whose presence you see the sun is clouded? In the presence of the sun. In the presence of the sunlight. Without the purity of the mind and without a tremendous focus, our mind is distracted. It creates a projection and we forget, and then we cannot see it. So now first let me translate that verse for you, and then he says the same thing. He says, if a wise man, means the awakened, asks an ignorant man about the real self, the answer will be, there is no such thing as real self. Real self is not experienced. So when it is not experienced, it does not exist. This is what the verse, in the last line of the verse says, this he says despite being the real self himself. Despite being the consciousness himself, he says, I am not experiencing. So it does not exist. And the moment I say it does not exist, the projection takes over. I am in stress, I have a lot of challenges, I have problems, this and that, and you are gone. So ignorance does not know the real self. Go a little further. In our normal living, our material life, a businessman or an executive or a beggar do not know what the real self is. So they do not talk about it. When they do not talk about it, it is universal ignorance. It is the root ignorance. That is already within us. So now we are talking of the two layers of the ignorance. First layer of the ignorance is the root ignorance. Those who have not followed the path, those who have never done a practice of meditation, those who are not exposed to any teaching of the Eastern wisdom that there is a real self and there is a false self. It is a root ignorance. It is a root ignorance. I don't know since my birth whether it's a businessman or an executive or a beggar. So it's a root ignorance. Now, out from that root ignorance, no worries if you do not understand. because the master goes on explaining unless we reach there. And that's why I have taken a couple of weeks before I wanted to reach to this verse in a different way. So I already live in root ignorance. In where? In my mind. Mind has no idea that is there a real self or a false self. I don't have any idea. So when I don't have any idea, I just talk about, I'm what I am. I'm Girish, I'm doing this and I have this money and I'm in stress and all those stuff. Because that I is related to my thought, my speech, my action. I have never heard anything about the real self. And now the awakened says, do you know the real self? No, I don't know it. I don't experience it. So I have covered, I have veiled the real self by my root ignorance is the veiling power, is the concealing power. We have to go a little deeper. Are you ready? Are you excited? No, you need not to be excited. You need to be aware. You need to be only aware. Can I start? Yes, you can start. So this master is saying the veiling power, hiding power or concealing power is generated by a thought of negation. Did you understand that? I repeated many a time. Do you know real self? No, I don't know real self. I don't experience it. My mind is playing with the thought. I don't know the real self. I don't experience it. So this is a thought of negation. This is a thought of negation. I just gave an example. Do you know David? No, I don't know. He is standing before me. So there is a thought of negation. So what the master is saying, the hiding power is generated by a thought of negation. Am I clear? We need an extraordinary awareness to examine where is the real self. That is why a lot of preparations, you have to purify the mind, you have to understand discernment and dispassion. And once your intellect lives in discernment and dispassion, you can play with it. So what I said, are you clear? Veiling power or a hiding power is generated by a thought of negation, thought of rejection. What is the thought of rejection? That I don't know the real self. Why? How can you say? I said because veiling power is generated when a question is asked by an awakened, do you know the real self? And the ignorant says, I don't know the real self. That is a thought of the negation. It covers the real self even when the real self is very much present in that. From this statement, can you really understand why we say we need a complete emptiness of the mind to recognize the real self? That is why all meditation we say transcend the mind means transcend all the thought. That is the root ignorance. Let us understand again in a different way that the negating in my mind as a thought and experiencing, telling my experience that I don't know the real self is at the mental level, expressed at the verbal level. Clear? The mental level and the verbal level. So verbal level says I don't know the real self. Master doesn't say, but master means that are you crazy? You say you don't know the real self. You are consciousness. Just become aware of it. Come on. If I say to the mouse, do you know the real self? Mouse is inert, does not know, not conscious. We all are conscious. Before you say, I don't know real self, can you become aware of yourself? Can you live into that state of awareness? I miss it. Why I miss it? Because of the impurity of the mind. Because I follow the impulsive, instinctive, habitual nature to know anything. Let us go step by step deeper. Ignorant person does not know the real self is the root ignorance. Ignorant person, when asked about the real self, again I'm repeating, you have to think of that. Ignorant person entertains the thought declaring, I don't know the real self. By the thought, you cannot know the real self. That is the root. It is not a pastime. This journey is not a pastime. I have to live into that awareness which is filtered by the mind, gives a verbal expression that I don't know the real self. That is why we say the Eastern wisdom is not a philosophy. The word is used in the Western word. We say it is a darshan. Darshan means it's a perception here and now. That is why I asked you a question. Who is asking? Who is saying that I don't know the real self? Can I say I am non-existent? Even if I use the verbal expression that I do not exist, the question still remains. Who says I do not exist? It is the consciousness who says I do not exist. I do not exist is only a verbal expression. It comes much later than I am consciousness. I am aware of this thought that I do not exist. If we have understood it, I can go little deeper. So I said I do not exist or I do not know the real self. It is a negative statement. It is a negative statement that we can easily understand. One more thing that I will pick up so that you can contemplate and reflect again and again. So I will take it up in a different way. Take an example. The light is a positive entity. I have just, there is a couple of lights so that you can see me clearly, and also the background. So light is a positive entity. This light is a, you can say it's a physical phenomena, and that can be measured scientifically. Why? The presence of the light allows us to see. What is the opposite of light? Is the darkness. What is the definition of darkness? Darkness is the absence of light. I'm talking of positive and the negative entities here. Keep in your mind, darkness does not exist as an independent entity. Are you teaching meditation? Yes, I'm teaching. Why you are talking of all these stuff? Because we want to be awakened here and now. You have to reflect on this. If anywhere you have a doubt, you are free to ask the question. So light is a positive entity. I explained you in the presence of the light. Presence of the light allows us to see everything, anything in this room. Then I explained you that darkness is the absence of the light. Darkness does not exist as an independent entity. Are you understanding? Darkness does not exist as an independent entity. It is simply a word we use to describe the lack of light. Light is positive, darkness is negative. Am I clear? Now I have to examine what is this positive and the negative thought structure we use that hides the real self. Light is a positive entity. Light is a positive entity. When it is present, we can see other things due to its presence. In the presence of, I'm simultaneously translating, in the presence of the consciousness, I become aware of everything. And its absence is darkness. Its absence is ignorance. There is no such entity as darkness. But question is, there is no such entity as darkness. It is only the absence of light. There's a light is a positive entity, but darkness is a negative entity. That negative entity, we say, it is ignorance. But darkness is the absence of light. It is the lack of something. Lack of light. So why I am not able to find the real self? It is lack of awareness. Now I am aware of you. No, you need not to be aware of me. You have to be aware of yourself. You have to be aware. Ashok is an engineer. It's much more than engineering. It is much more than calculating how much money you have in your bank account. And the best part is that it is here and now. The positive entity, light, objectively exists. Negative entity, darkness, does not exist independently. There are many principles. I'm going to explain in the following sessions again and again until you are clear. What I'm saying, pay attention to it. The positive entity is the light, objectively exists. In the presence of the light, I see you. The negative entity, that is the darkness, does not exist independently. Darkness does not exist independently. It is just a word to describe the lack of positive entity. This illustrates the distinction between the positive entities that always exist versus the negative entity that are defined only by the absence of light. This is the problem of ignorance. When I say I am ignorant about you, I forget that I am consciousness. why we explain the positive and the negative. I will just stop there. Why we answering that question, that why you are talking of positive and the negative thought structure, the positive entity and the negative, because the positive entity always exists and the negative is simply the absence of the positive. I see, I feel through the mind that it is absent. Negative means what it lacks, not what it contains. Summarizing it again. I gave an example, you have to think of it. I see everything in the presence of the light, but I lack awareness of the light. I forget only in the presence of the light. I know the mouse, I know you all, I know the computer, I know the screen. I declare it is non-existent. That non-existent idea and a thought, a verbal and a mental expression is the ignorance, is the root ignorance we all are suffering from. It is too much complex? No, nothing is complex. Close your eyes. Okay, thank God you have stopped this talking about it. Now I'm really relieved. That is also ignorance. Eyes are closed. Eyes are closed. I'm aware. So that awareness plus eyes are closed. That is how I don't see. Awareness plus eyes are closed plus body is comfortable plus experience of the comfort. So if you don't pay attention, your mind is distracted. Even if I say, continue to say that feel and be comfortable, you will never be comfortable. It is the absence of that awareness, lack of awareness. Can I use that language? I'm trying to use the language what we discussed. Why? So that we can progress. We can remove that ignorance, my friend. Let us go in a natural way first, where I said being comfortable, eyes are closed. Yes, I said eyes are closed. Then I said looking at the entire body. Yes. Feeling and experiencing the sensation, comfort and steadiness. Do you see? When I said, do you know the real self? No, I don't experience it. I don't know the real self. But here you are experiencing being comfortable and being. There is a sensation, there is a comfort, and there is a steadiness. So, yes, I experience something. Analyze this. Who can analyze, whose mind is pure and fully aware? Oh, so you said look at the entire body, object. You are aware of the object then you experience sensation, comfort, and steadiness. Oh, yes, I experience the sensation, comfort, and steadiness. I want to experience the real self like this. Not possible. Then why you are giving this step? Because to help your mind to live in a higher awareness. It is not required. It is required for who has yet to become a seeker. It is not required who is the highest level of a seeker, who listens and learns and enters into that awareness. Can I say, can I become aware of the light in whose presence I experience the sensation, comfort, and steadiness? Now see, I'm just translating. I'm moving from metaphor to an understanding, from an understanding to a metaphor. I just said what I said in the presence of real self. I do not know it is ignorance. I'm trying to make it simple. Every teacher has its own expression. Just go to the being carefree again. Being carefree. How silly it will look. I'm going to explain it. But first understand, and the mind says, yes, you are right. That is why you have been saying that I am right when I explain you being carefree is, let the thought come and let it go. Every teacher explains beautifully, and our mind accepts. Yes, this is being a good teacher. Really? And now I'm asking, in the presence of the light, you see hundreds of items in your room. Are you not carefree from those items? Here now. Oh, yes, I'm carefree. No item is touching me, no item is attacking me, no item is chasing me. I am not carried away by any item. Are you sure? If you are sure about it, then I'm teaching you something wrong. Let the thought, let the article come, let the article go. The thought is also an article, an item. Why should I say it? I have to remove the ignorance. I have to remove the nail if it has pierced into your toes by another nail. Do you mean to say that it is just an expression in the thought? Yes. Because you are attached so much to the thought, that is why I am saying let the thought come and go. Do I need to say it? No. Why? Do I need to say that, you see so many articles in the room? Do I say let the article come and let the article go? So when we are the highest level of a seeker, we recognize this. Then I don't say I don't recognize. Then you will never say that I was distracted by a thought. But don't say it hypocritically. What is happening in your mind? You should share the experience. I will come to know anyhow. Again, I am explaining in simple words. Being carefree, I have been saying, let the thought come and go. I have been explaining by metaphor that what I explained, that there are many metaphors I use. Let us pick up one metaphor is there is you are standing across a road and traffic is going and coming. What is the point here? That you are aware that you are already standing across the road. You are separate from the thought in the mental traffic. You are already separate from each and every article that is present in your room. Anyhow, let me go a little deeper. You are already separate from your honey, from your near and the dear ones, from your body, from your mind, from your intellect, from your ego, from all the thoughts. Why to worry about it? Because I worry about it, it is a projection power came from the ignorance that I don't know the real self. Hence, whatever the mind is projecting, I claim here I am. And then I say I am distracted. You cannot be distracted. Am I explaining the same thing? No worries. No worries, I told you, if you do not understand. It's better to not to understand so that you get inspired. Obviously, we are doing nothing. One who knows, one who doesn't know. Behind that, there is a knower. There is a seer. What a great mystery in the presence of the real self. I say that I do not know it. In the presence of the light, my verbal expression or an awareness that I do not know the light. In the presence of the light, I see everything. It is the root ignorance. So we together examine means I reflect on the thought that is being expressed by the mind and I strip out that negative entity because it is the absence of light is the darkness. That absence of light is the ignorance. But the darkness has no existence, independent existence. That is one way to see it. Are you holding something? It is not required. Are you pressing yourself to remain calm and peaceful? You are fighting with what is already absent. Oh, why you are saying this? I experience it. That is what I said. I do not experience the real self. How we are relating my painful experience with. You see, your mind may ask. So you are already attached to the objects in your room, claiming that I experience this, they are chasing me. It is a lack of awareness. Last point I covered much before. Any thought equation. Any thought is equal to a thought of an object, knowledge of an object, plus the mind or reflected consciousness, plus the pure consciousness. Thought is the product of knowledge. Thought, if I say the knowledge, I know David, for example, is a thought, is equal to thought of a object. Object is David. Plus knowledge of the David. Plus mind says I know the David. Plus consciousness. Do you see the real self is present here? What makes me forget? The mind in ignorance who does not recognize in the presence of that consciousness, I know the object, I have a knowledge of an object, I have a verbal expression of an object that I know David, but I forget consciousness. I know computer screen, I know you all, I'm talking to you all, but I forget the light. In the presence of the light, everything is happening. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Bring your awareness on the right hand, your awareness on the left hand. Lift your both the palms, place it on your eyes. Open the eyes inside the palms, know your experiences. Bring the hands down, we'll share our experiences. If you have any doubt, you can definitely share your doubt here. How are you, Stephen?
Thank you very much. Girish, you have an incredible way of simplifying everything. And, several weeks ago, I think I made a statement to you that it's the realization that I'm not in search of the real self, but that I am the real self. And with that thought and those ideas of that contemplation reflection that I've done since that point, it was this ease of separation between the real self and ignorance. And we talk about, going back, and it's find it sometimes bizarre that I was thinking about the negating concept, and you bring it up in today's conversation. And I've also thought about the positives and the negatives, and the dualities of looking at things from two different sides, and so on and so forth. And that's how I've been approaching this whole topic and understanding. And the realization that I've come to is the fact that any situation that is fostered to create this contemplation reflection is all coming from the real self.
Yes.
And everything bad, the darkness, is coming from the ignorance. So taking what you said today of the light and darkness is just the absence of light. It's the real self is always there, and it's the ignorance that's even though we might acknowledge the ignorance, it's not in absence of the real self. And then understanding that when you recognize that ignorance, it's the real self telling you that this exists, and now you could negate it. And it's made things just very easy. And today, as soon as, when I embraced this topic and we closed our eyes, it was just such a feeling of relief.
Beautiful.
And calmness. And I thank you for that.
Beautiful explanation. Beautiful. How are you, David and Jerry?
Thank you very much. I mean, very similar to Stephen's, but I would just say that was extremely powerful. Extremely powerful, and I am going to listen to this lesson over and over again, because I had great moments of consciousness, and then the highway came in, and then it went back to consciousness. But it was just, for me, it was very powerful. So thank you.
Yes. Repeated listening and learning and contemplation and reflection makes you aware. Here is the mind, here it is, consciousness. Here is the mind, here is the consciousness. Here is the mind, here is the consciousness. Where is mind? I know the mouse. What is consciousness? Presence of light. Very good. How are you, Jerry?
Sir, I'm good, thank you. It's just super clear that it's with the light of consciousness that we see everything that is changing, and we also see what is not changing. So we always know it's there, and there will always be things that are changing outside of that, but we can bring that to our life, because we live, and like you say, live wisely. And so that's how we live wisely, knowing that we're this permanent consciousness that's never changing.
Yes, your mind picked up what's changing and what is not changing. That is also a good concept. So when we apply that, we become aware what is changing. Who recognizes the changing? Only the one who never changes. You cannot recognize the changing if there is nothing that never changes. What never changes? It is the light. It is the light of the consciousness. That is another way to look at it. So our master's approach, wonderful. How are you, Dennis?
I'm fine, thank you. It was a very interesting talk and explanation with simultaneous awareness that it is the mind who says it is interesting and it is the real self who knows. And there is an insight I had during the meditation is that the one who knows I am separate from thoughts is the real self.
Yes? Yes? Talk to Sasha and Sergey, they will say, you both are crazy. So it happens. That is why, the teacher has to follow a different approach, understanding the level of awareness and understanding of the participant. And what Dennis is pointing out, that the moment I say, so I examine the thought, I don't know the real self. Hold on. Who is saying this? So I do not extend that thought. How I do not know the real self, but I become aware of the knower who claims I don't know the real self. That is the knower. That is what the real self is. Yes, you got it. Yes, how are you, Brandy? We have become crazier and crazier day by day.
Me too. Good morning. I'm good. I had the realization when I went into my meditation that we go into a dark space to experience lightness. So kind of playing around with what was in the lesson today. And so I was thinking, kind of like what Dennis said, I was thinking about how, so if you're in a dark space and you want to experience lightness, the negation comes with the mind and the mindset. And to Stephen's point, that's so simple, but like Saturday stuff, not easy to apply.
Not easy to. Yeah. Why you are negating it? You see, that is where the problem comes. How are you, Vaibhav? We miss the point and we do it.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I'm good. Was understanding this that my false self is limited to this thing that what I know from the mind. But there is other part of it where I don't know. So if I know or I don't know, behind this there is a real self.
Yes. That's a beautiful way.
This is what I'm getting from the lesson today.
Yes. That is also a good way. I'm just, when you are sharing your experiences, obviously it is your mind which is reflecting on these principles, and then you share. That is also a wonderful point to understand and keep in your mind. That's why I say that you keep on listening, repeat listening, and that helps you. Where are you, Terry?
Here.
Oh, here? Yes, good.
Here.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yes, here and everywhere. That
like,
is.
So, is to come to play those are thoughts.
So they.
And thoughts are.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was avoiding thoughts.
No, we need not to avoid it.
I also have a question.
Yes.
Or a statement. Light is also all pervading. Is that true? Light is all pervading.
I believe, you have difficulty speaking, but if the way I have understood that there is a light, in the presence of the light I become aware of all the objects, but there is another light. It is not the external light which is responsible for knowing any object. It is the light of the consciousness which becomes aware of the light, and that light reflected on the objects, and I know it. So it's a gradation, but I fall back into the gradation and I lose my awareness. That lack of awareness is nothing but the ignorance, and that is how I say I don't know the real self. That itself creates a deeper level of ignorance. We'll talk about it, no worries. We'll understand that as long as you are interested. How are you, Ashok?
Namaste, sir.
Namaste, sir.
Sir, meditation was very good, and we should have a constant remembrance of our real self.
Yes.
And we should, we should have a desire. Should we have a desire of knowing the real self, or it will come automatically? We should not have a desire.
So when you say I want,
I mean, desire is not the correct word, but what should we say that?
No, you are right. When we have a desire to know the real self, then only you like to remember the real self all the time. That is one way of saying it. The other way of saying is that let me remember the real self all the time. So because that is also a desire to know the real self. So both are one and the same thing. Now, desire to earn the wealth, you have to pull your mind outside. But desire to know the real self, no, let me just become aware. So that is where lies the self-awareness.
To go inside.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just you go inside. How are you? Great, sir. I am meeting you after a long time. Thank you for joining me, sir. Yes, sir.
Who are you talking to?
I'm talking to you. Already understood. Are you making me ignorant?
I'm really good. Yeah, thanks, Girish, for everything, and David and Jeree for setting everything up this whole time, and Stephen and Brandy for all the extra time you've given me, and everybody else for sharing your stories. I appreciate it. I've learned a lot from everyone.
And still I'm not changing.
Yeah, no, I haven't changed yet.
Very good.
No, I've just been thinking about the lessons you've given and practicing them in the world, right? Because when we end our session, and I'm realizing that it's not just our session, right? It's every relationship we have. When we end that relationship, that is a window into your knowledge or your ignorance at a given time. And even though you're changing in 99% of your relationships, even if you might be, there might always be one that really frustrates you. And it tends to be people who are close to you, people who love you, people who care about you. But I'm realizing that it's just a communication style challenge. It's a way of teaching, and people have different ways of teaching. Some people give tough love, and some people give warm love.
Don't be too much philosophical, Sam. That is the biggest problem you have. If I say clearly.
Of course it is.
You listen to the lesson and follow what the knowledge of the Eastern wisdom says. Don't put your nose into it.
Yeah.
Because you are putting your nose means that you are playing with the ignorance to get the knowledge. Not possible. You are trying to receive the knowledge in your own way. That is why you say everyone has a different communication. What I have to do with a different communication style? I have to do nothing.
Yeah, you're right.
I have to do nothing with anyone's communication style. I have to bring my mind back the way everyone says that everyone shared their experiences. This is what is happening to me after receiving this knowledge. So you try to translate everything that I speak, or why should I speak? It is the masters are talking about it. You try to adjust into your ignorant mind. Not at all possible.
Yeah.
Not at all possible. But thank you anyhow joining me again. I am very happy that you joined. That is all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.